Coach, obviously whew, your trip to Portugal kind of got cut short, but the couple games you were able to be there, and I know you said you didn't take away wins and losses, but outside of the team bonding, were there any things that stood out to you?
Like you said, fortunately, our team's trip didn't get cut short. My part in it did, but had tremendous confidence that we wouldn't skip a beat in terms of what we were trying to get accomplished over there. And like I said, prior to leaving, that this was way more about the non-basketball part of the actual Portugal trip. Certainly taking advantage of the extra practices that the NCAA allows when you go on one of these tours was paramount for us to just get acclimated to our new team, certainly our new guys, to understand what we're trying to do. And it was a much different summer than the first summer in terms of having everyone here. We had everyone in our program here for July, and then we had one player that wasn't with us in June because of a transcript issue that was worked out. But just different mindset, different place for all of us. And in terms of what we got accomplished, like I said, we had a pretty good idea that the competition wasn't going to be, what we would see over here, even in the non-conference portion of the schedule, not even talking about the SEC. So we were prepared for that, and our mentality was, just play everyone equal minutes, switch around lineups, look at different lineups, and more importantly, just have fun with it. And certainly the guys were excited for the games, but for us, it was more just the experience of going over there together and what we could gain from that.
Go to Coach's right, Danny P.
Coach, along those lines, just talk about some of the newcomers and what impressed you about them. Look, Andrew had a good few days out there in Portugal, and just anybody else really kind of impressed you? Something that really benefited from this trip?
Again, I wouldn't read too much into any video that you watched, or certainly any box scores that are available, because we really just played equal minutes. I was paying attention to that more than anything else. I had a guy to my right that was, we didn't have stat folks over there, so that was my number one thing, is to just make sure everybody had opportunities. And people are going to ask about the 3-point percentage, I'm sure, and we made a bunch over there, but they were pretty open and on rhythm, and there wasn't a lot of size closing out on the open shooters, and we were happy that they made them. But at the same time, it was nothing like it's going to feel when we get into November, December. But yeah, the new guys, what a great opportunity for them. It was probably more beneficial for them than the returnees in terms of getting used to playing in the system that we're trying to implement, and just getting comfortable. And a lot of guys did well over there, returnees and new.
Steph, go ahead.
Coach, among the guys who didn't play was Deshaun on that trip. Do you have any update on his status, and do you expect him to be ready when the season comes around?
Yeah, Rams had foot surgery. I couldn't even tell you the exact date. It was weeks ago. So he's been on a scooter ever since. He's still on one. We're taking our time, with his recovery. We expect him back sometime this fall. I would say in the next few weeks rather than months. So if everything goes as planned, he'll certainly not miss any games, but he'll have some catching up to do from the obvious of cardio and just his rhythm, etc. But so far so good for getting him back on the timeline that they put in place.
Front row to Coach's left.
We've seen you guys schedule a lot of those, neutral site games. I know you had a few of them last year, but a lot more this year. What do you feel like you guys get out of those games? Why do you like those games so much?
I would love to have more home games, but it takes two to tango, and it's hard. Every coach in America talks to their people about how difficult scheduling is, and unfortunately, it's August 23rd, and we're still scheduling. we're still haven't gotten everything complete. We're closer. We're getting down to it where, what happens in the fall is there's only X amount of teams that have dates and games left, and so you have to almost pair up. You're forced to pair up to get your schedule complete, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Is we've got 1 or 2 dates that we haven't completely scheduled yet, but in terms of the neutral site games, there's a lot of different reasons for it. Some of them are due to NIL opportunities that promoters will put on, and we're always trying to get in that market if we can. Some of it is just to play quality opponents, and when you play in those neutral site games, you have a better chance to get a higher quad 1 or quad 2 opportunity than you do if it's at home, even though both teams look at it the same way, where I don't have to play in front of each other's fan bases, but a better opportunity to get a quad 1 or quad 2 game than it would be if you played them at home. It would be a quad 3 or quad 2 or what have you, depending on how they do in the season. So there's certainly a lot of strategy that goes into it when you're trying to put together those 13 non-league games, and you want to have enough opportunities to put yourself in position going into the SEC where you're going to get plenty of them. And I kind of think every year depends on what kind of team you think you're going to have. And for instance, this year, when it completely gets itself unveiled, it's more challenging than it was last year. And we had a good schedule last year, but I think there hopefully will be more opportunities for quad 1, quad 2 games before we get into the SEC.
Who was second row middle next to Morgan?
Going off of that, I'm just curious what maybe you learned from last year's scheduling in non-conference and sort of how it affects seeding at the Power 5 level, and how you took that into your process this offseason.
Yeah, what we found in our research is that, right? You got to play good teams to get rewarded for it. Certainly everyone has a different philosophy. Some folks are like, we got so many opportunities in our league, depending on the strength of your particular league, that they want to pull back a little bit, because what you don't want to do is have too many and get caught in a situation where the losses pile up, and there's data out there that says a certain number of losses, regardless of how well you do in some games, you're almost doomed. So we're trying to find that right medium and mix, but we just really want to try to get quad 1 and quad 2 wins like everybody else, but you've got to trust data, and there's a lot of people out there in that space right now where they're projecting, and it changes every day depending on rosters, but that's somewhat of a educated guess, if you will, and we're doing the same just to try to put our team in position to have opportunities. If we're good enough to win enough games and be considered for an at-large possibility, you've got to have the numbers to back it up.
Got time for a couple more. We'll go to Paul, Steph, and then back to Justin.
Just kind of update where your current schedule is, what you guys are doing as far as workouts, and then when the first day of official practice is.
I know you guys follow it. There's been some releases of particular games. Like I said earlier, we're still in the midst of doing that, but I think it'll end up being a very good and challenging schedule for us. We are just getting back on the court. We got started in school last Wednesday, so we've let them take that first 5 or 6 days to try to get back into the routine of academics and a full campus, and just being excited about being in a new year. And we're just getting back on the court, and we get the X amount of hours now until what they do is whatever your first game is for your particular school. It's not a hard date that you can start full practices. It's 42 days backwards from the date you open. So for us, it's like September 27th, and then once that day hits, you're back to the 20 hours a week and the full practices. So from now until September 27th, we'll have limited access to them. They'll have 4 hours with us on the court, and then they'll have 4 hours in the strength and conditioning department with Coach Walker. And so it'll be good. We'll ease back into it, and I'm sure some guys are back in summer shape rather than basketball shape, and we'll have to work on that as well.